Hi, my name is Tamara, and you are watching Things Even a Monkey Should Know. Hello, hello! Thank you so much for joining me again today. As you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, I'm not a professional anything except artist, but I have learned there are a number of things around the house and out in the yard and even on my cars that I can do myself, and usually save myself time, money, and aggravation, so hopefully you have saved those things now too. Today, we are going to look at ripping a piece of wood without a table saw. So let's get started. Let's go over what we're going to need today. Obviously, you want to have whatever lovely piece or pieces of wood you are ripping into other dimensions. You want to have, let's go with safety first. You want to have eye protection of some sort. You want to have ear protection of some sort because the saw that we're going to use is quite loud. You want to have a tape measure, a pencil. You will want to have a straight edge of some description. I have two because my wood that I'm cutting is very long. You want to make sure that they are extremely straight because any little curves that you have in your straight edge is going to cause a curve in your cut. You will need to have an ample supply of clamps with which to clamp your straight edges. And last, but certainly not least, you need to have a circular saw. What is there here that we don't need to have? Oh yeah, something hanging down that could get caught in the saw. Let's just take that off right now. Check around and make sure that you don't have any jewelry, any clothing hanging down, even any long hair. Even though my hair is fairly short, I'm gonna go ahead and tuck it up into my ponytail holder. I'm gonna add to the other things that you need today, which aren't too many. You also need some kind of breathing protection. You can use just an ordinary dust mask because, as you will see, this monkey forgot to use one and she paid for it by not being able to breathe for about 2 days because her nose was stuffed so full of sawdust. So the last thing to remember is just to get something to protect your lungs. The first step that we need to do today is, well, obviously you need to know how wide you need your wood to be cut. And you want to go ahead and mark that. So I actually only need 5/8 inch strips. I am making some special trim, and in order to run this through my router and have one side already be the size that I want it to be, I'm just going to go ahead and trim it down to 5/8 inch pieces. I'm going to mark this in multiple places along the length of my board. What I'm about to do next appears to be an extra step, but it is actually very helpful in a variety of ways. I am going to go between the marks that I just made. I'm going to get my straight edge perfectly aligned with these marks, and this, by the way, will tell you if your straight edge is perfectly straight. It's a really good way to figure that out. But then I'm going to make a line all the way down my board. Why, you ask? Did we just take the extra trouble to make that line all the way down our board? Well, a couple reasons. The first is, if you have a line, then it lets you know if you happen to be getting off in your cut, which we don't want to do, right? The second thing is, it's going to help you figure out where to put your straight edge. So obviously, you can't just line this up, hope it's all going to work out. You actually need to know the distance between the edge of your saw blade and the edge of your saw. And you want to clamp your straight edge at the edge of your saw. Now, I already know mine is 1 1/4 inches, but I've also done this a whole bunch of times. If you don't yet know what your distance is that you're going to need to measure, you will want to look, and by the way, don't plug in your saw yet because there's no reason to potentially put yourself at risk. And you want to go ahead and line up the inner edge of your saw blade with this line that you made. Now, why the inner edge? Well, if you line up the outer edge, then you're going to take off about 1/8 of an inch that you didn't mean to take off. So then, once you have that lined up, just make yourself a little line over here at the edge of your saw, and then you can measure how far your distance is. And mine is 1.25 inches. And that's all there is to it. Did you notice that I measured the distance from the blade to the edge of the saw on the side that didn't have the motor on it? Don't measure the side with the motor on it. There is no point, because the motor will not be able to get over your straight edge. Now, what I do like to do, and I'm going to go ahead and do this just because, again, I love to have everything marked so that I know what I'm exactly where I should be hitting. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make little 1.25 inch marks past my original 5/8 inch marks, which again, depending on what you were doing, let's say that you were cutting a 3-inch board and you had the same distance that I did going on here from the edge of the blade to the edge of the saw, then you would add 1.25 inches to that. In my case, I'm adding 1.25 inches to 5/8 of an inch, which makes me need to make marks along my board at 1 7/8 of an inch. And by doing this, it gives me a little something to go by whenever I am clamping down my straight edges. We are almost there. We're almost ready to cut. I'm going to take my straight edges now. It's getting warm out here. And I'm going to line them up along the lines the marks that I made. And I know that this may seem like common sense, but whenever you get into the groove of cutting things this way, sometimes you forget to put the sticky outy part of your clamp down below your wood. And also keep it, let me see if y'all can see this, keep your clamp out of the way of where you're going to be running your saw. It'll just make your life easier. Now, my straight edge is so long that I'm actually going to put a clamp in the middle of this longest one that I will pull out whenever I actually get down here. But it just really helps to make sure that these things stay in line. I am going to have a couple of different places where I'm going to have to pull clamps out as I go, and that's perfectly fine. You can pause what you're doing and pull them out. Guess what time it is? It is time to plug in our saw. It is time to put on our eye protection and to put in our hearing protection. And then it's time to get cutting. And keep in mind that you want to let the saw do the work. You don't need to be shoving it along, trying to make it go faster than it wants to go. Let's just get started. Oh, so what have we here? We have a lovely ripped 5/8 inch piece of board by 14 feet long that is ready to be turned into trim. Now, hopefully you didn't have to deal with a 14-foot board, but if you did, at least you know how. I hope you have now successfully sliced your lumber up into whatever dimensions you need. And obviously this doesn't just work on lumber by the foot. You can use it on plywood, you can use it on OSB. If you have the right blade in your saw, you can even use it on a cement board. So it's a pretty versatile way of cutting things. Now, I like this method for two main reasons. The first is cost. A table saw is going to cost you 5 or 6 or even more times what a circular saw will cost you. And also a table saw takes up a lot of room, so you need to have a place that it can pretty much sit permanently. Another reason I really like this is kind of that size thing I was just talking about, but I guess it's more like mobility. I can load up this method of cutting and I can take it anywhere. So right now I'm at my studio, but if I need to go home and cut some lumber, I can totally do that. And all I have to do is take my saw, probably my straight edges, and then I'm done, because I mean, everybody has sawhorses and clamps at their house, right? If they don't, I bet you do now. I hope this helped you, and I appreciate you joining me for this straight cut journey today. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do that now, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.